Now here to discuss, Bakari Sellers, attorney and former South Carolina Democratic State Representative, and Alyssa Farah Griffin, former Trump White House Communications Director. Bakari, you know a thing or two about South Carolina politics. I will cop to naively assuming that when the president got behind Lindsey Graham's sister, that it would kind of clear the field a little bit. She'd have a pretty easy path. That hasn't happened. How do you think this lands?
I'm sorry, that's naive, Phil. And the reason being is because the simple fact that the president endorsed Pamela Abbott, the lieutenant governor of the great state of South Carolina, in her gubernatorial primary. And we saw how that went. He ended up doing a dual endorsement in the runoff. The fact is, look, the dark horse tonight is Mark Sanford. Mark Sanford's been on the ballot 21 times in South Carolina. He's won 20 of them. There is no one comparable to him in terms of experience. That's first. Second, Darlene has to be hoping for a Ralph Norman runner-up in this race, because she can actually beat Ralph Norman in a runoff. Russell Fry is the person that if Russell Fry wins or comes in second, then Russell Fry will be the next United States Senator from the great state of South Carolina. That is someone who is decently unbeatable. But it's going to be fascinating tonight because Russell, Mark, and Ralph are all just bundled up, running behind Darlene, and she is not going to get more than 35% tonight.
You know, Alyssa, to that point, obviously Senator Lindsey Graham's death means that whoever wins the nomination, it almost, no matter where they get, it seems like a runoff is almost a certainty at this point. That is an absolute sprint, as Diane Gallagher was just reporting. What's that mean for a campaign in that moment where you have a very limited window to try and beat somebody one-on-one?
Is that to me, Phil?
Oh, yes. Alyssa, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Listen, well, for one, I completely echo Bakari. Listen, Donald Trump has a pretty good record in primaries, but he's had some flubs. And one of the most prominent ones this cycle was in South Carolina, where he ended up doing that sort of dual endorsement. Now, I do think it certainly his endorsement gets Darlene over the finish line to the runoff. But she, to his point, is up against heavy hitters. She is going to have to run almost on her brother's name ID. Lindsey Graham was beloved in the state. He was somebody who was known. He'd served in that seat for, over 20 years. So I think saying she's going to be carrying on his legacy is the best place to be. But listen, you do not want to be running against a Mark Sanford, a former two-term governor, somebody who's known on the national level as well. That would be probably the hardest stakes for her. And listen, I also could see a scenario where if she, the margins are close and it looks like there's somebody who could beat her after the runoff, you could see the president once again doing a dual endorsement, because he cares a lot about keeping his record of picking winners and losers.
For those keeping track at home, that is 2 for 2, both Bakari and Alyssa confirming my naivete at the start of this race. Bakari, the Wisconsin race, it fits very nicely into a dim-on-dim violence narrative that I think has carried us through much of the primary process at this point. How do you view this race, both in terms of what's going to happen on the ground and what it means bigger picture for the party?
Yeah, let me focus on biggest picture, which I think is most important. For a very long period of time, Democrats did something Republicans, they just were really bad at, which is pick good candidates. I go back to the Todd Aiken days in Missouri, the I'm not a witch days of Catherine O'Donnell, Roy Moore, who, even though he rode a horse, had issues throughout his past. And I think Democrats, we've gotten to a point where we're just like, we can win these races, just don't be weird. I don't want to come on national TV with you and Alyssa and have to defend whether or not Thanksgiving should be canceled, right? I don't want to come on here and be talking about toxic masculinity and football. I don't want to be asked the question whether or not we should have fireworks on July 4th. There are just certain things that we can simply say, just don't be weird. And I think that we're in a point now in Wisconsin where my caution to Dems is, let's not chase fool's gold. Tiffany is a terrible candidate. Francesca Hong will have an opportunity here in this race. But even more importantly, we have Sherrod Brown, we have Roy Cooper, we have John Ossoff, we have Tellerico to an extent where if we got a few deep passes before halftime, we kick a couple field goals, maybe pull that off. So, I mean, let's focus on what's at hand, because Wisconsin, if she wins tonight, is going to be something that I really don't want to be spending the next 3 months on TV trying to defend position after position.
Alyssa, what's your view kind of the current state of the Democratic Party fight?
Couldn't say it better than Bakari. Listen, the Democrats are poised to win and to do well. When Donald Trump's approval ratings are in the low 30s, they should. But all they have to do is seem less weird than Donald Trump and the far right of the Republican Party. And in recent months and weeks, they often come off significantly weirder. With this rise of DSA, you really are leaning back into this peak woke period of 2020, where a lot of people took really extreme positions that alienated a lot of the country, and that, in fact, actually led to Donald Trump's rise back into power. And I'd point out Wisconsin, this is a critical swing state, as you mentioned, Phil. Tiffany, who is likely to be the Republican nominee for governor, is somebody who didn't want to certify the election for Joe Biden in 2020. So I think this sort of DSA wing really plays with fire, and they often lose the forest through the trees. I would think that Democrats' priorities would be getting people elected in general elections in swing states, and certainly stopping somebody who could be classified as an election denier from being the governor of a swing state. But oftentimes they go for these more purist types, and then you get somebody who you're having to answer ridiculous questions for. Candidate quality is ultimately always what matters. There are some really good Dems, James Tallarico. There are some much more out there Democrats like Francesca Hong this cycle.
Bakari Sellers, appreciate you as always, my friend. Alyssa Farah Griffin, stick around. Fascinating night ahead.